We always talk about do your best, do your best, do your best. But to say do your best has the potential to actually be toxic to kids. And especially if we're saying that to ourselves, if we hold ourselves to such high standards, there are days that our best is going to be here, where we're really going to be firing on all the cylinders, where there's no interference, there's nothing getting in the way, there's no static. But more often there are going to be days where there's other stuff. There's interference, there's noise in the signal.
That was the voice of this week's guest, Russell Nadel. Russell is a middle school music and movement educator, now entering his 20th year in the profession. With so many years of experience in the field, he has a wealth of experience with teaching frameworks, student motivation, neurodivergent thinking, and mindfulness. I really hope you can integrate what he says today in how you approach the start of the 25-26 school year. In today's conversation, we discuss 1, how Russell implements mindfulness practices to help himself and his students transition between school periods. 2, what it's like to be a teacher with ADHD, the inattentive type, and how being transparent about this with his students creates a warm and productive classroom community. 3, how Russell uses the Orff Schulwerk framework to teach music and how it can be applied to all different school subjects. 4, how leveling up in video games can be applied in baby steps, especially in school. 5, Russell's words of encouragement for male teachers starting the upcoming school year. And 6, the importance of having someone in the building at your school site to share with vulnerably on the behalf of students and for teachers. Are you ready? Take out your notes and let's start today's show. Welcome back to school. And welcome to the 2025-2026 school year and this season of Unmasking with Male Educators. Please enjoy this back to school series where we'll be talking to students, some of our young men. We'll be talking to educators, men from all over the world, backgrounds and expertise, providing tips and techniques to start the school year. As you know, only 23% of K-12 educators in America are male. And male students face disproportionate levels of discipline on many levels. So let's come together and start the school year off with confidence and effectiveness. Look forward to you being with us this season. We'll see you soon. Thank you for being here on the show. Listen, Russell Nadel, would you tell folks who you are, what excites you, why are you in this work? And just before we jump into these maths and teaching pedagogy and all these things, just let folks know who you are, and then we'll jump in.
Sure. My name is Russell Nadel. I take he, him pronouns. I'm a teacher of music. I'm a composer by training as well as a music educator. I am a public Jew. I wear a kippah, or a yarmulke, as some people call it, out and about, including in the classroom. And how did I get started? I got started because I thought I wanted to be a psychology major. And I also went to a summer camp for creative high school kids who thought it would be fun to write some music. And I started writing some music. And then I was like, no, I'm going to write music. And no, wait, I can't make a living writing music. Okay, I'll write music and I'll be a psychologist. And I remember my mom sitting me down and saying, so you know that either of those tracks, you're going to probably need at least a master's, probably a doctorate. And that's like 6-7 years of training. Have you thought about teaching? And now she tells the story differently than me. I tell the story as that was the moment of like the shining light from above coming down and the choir singing and going, of course, like the sort of dope slap, like, of course I should be a teacher. And she remembers me arguing. So I don't know. But it's been a very natural fit ever since I started training in freshman year at conservatory. And I just finished up my 19th year in full-time education. I'm headed into year 20 in the fall.
Congratulations on 20 years being an educator. I mean, I think we've been through a lot in the last 20 years, definitely the last 5 for sure, right? But thank you for the work. What does it feel like? Like, is it Did it feel like it went fast, or did it feel like it like took 20 years? Like trying to get to 21, you're like, this is taking forever. What did it feel like for you as a hitting 20 years as an educator?
I'll tell you what, there's a line about parenting that I don't remember where I heard it first, but it really resonates as true. I have two relatively young children of my own, and the line goes, "The days are long, but the years are short." And
Mm.
that really has resonated as true for me. It's some of the days just go on and on and on and on, tantrums and drama, who knows all what. And then all of a sudden you turn around and my boys are going into second and fourth grade. And how did that even happen? It's coming into year 20. Like now all of a sudden I'm old. When that happened, don't even know.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, congratulations on this milestone. Maybe I don't know how your school does it. Maybe at 20 years you get an extra special donut for the or maybe you get a ring. Maybe who knows what you get as they hit these milestones, you know?
I get a brick.
For
No, really.
for the new
I get a
construction
brick with
project?
yeah, I get a brick with my name on it in one of the garden spaces at the school.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
that'll be the end of next year. I'll get my brick.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, maybe there'll be a picnic happening at the same time in the garden area, right?
I hope so.
Well, listen, we started this conversation around this the idea of these masks. We started this website, this podcast, this movement around inviting people definitely to talk about masks. First, just men, and then we really got specific around talking to male educators. So I think we limit we tightened in, and we've now because there's not a lot of male educators. And I don't know how your school looks compared to other schools you've been at, but as a male educator in this work, we talk about these masks we have to wear as we come in every day. And 14 years at the same school, I imagine you've seen many people come and go, and students come and go for sure. And now this journey of yourself moving into the the wise sage of the school, right? You're like, oh, he's been for 20 years, right? And so, what before we jump into like you and I just sharing a mask, what is something that you've seen in education that continues to inspire you, like to continue to light you up, keep you coming back every year? What is that part of education?
A lot of it is, I mean, it's kind of cliche, but it's true, is those moments of seeing the light bulb go off, or it's those moments of after rehearsing something to death in the music room, it comes performance time and the kids crush it. Or it's the moment where, given a project, and I'm very sort of invested in project-based learning, and a lot of as much independent work as is feasible, and we can talk more about that later. But it's that moment where after a kid has had many, many choices of a piece to learn to improve their instrumental skills on recorder or ukulele, something like that. They pick a piece that's very difficult. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know about that choice. I don't know if that choice is the right fit for that kid. That would be a really big stretch. And then come a week or 2 or 3 weeks later, it's time to make their video recording, and darned if they don't crush it. And to
Mm.
see that growth and to acknowledge that growth and to be a part of that growth, even at the most sort of foundational level, is very life giving. It's very reinforcing. It's very motivating. And that's not every day. Obviously, there are some days that it's just a grind. Um, and then there are some days where it's a grind minus a couple of really sparkly high points. And then there's some days that
Mm.
just coast by as, man, in the zone, everything is going, everything is locked in, it's beautiful. But the days where it's really work
Mm.
are, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to be a good teacher. Again, I can't remember who said it originally, but teaching is 75% acting. Um,
Mm.
and to
Mm.
put yourself on a stage, even if it's a small stage in front of a small sort of audience, day in, day out, all day long, it takes a tremendous amount of energy. And sometimes the audience is right with you and they're laughing at your jokes and it's awesome. And sometimes it just dies. And I think that's something that that theater and stand-up comedy and teaching all have very much in common.
Well, I know the acting, and definitely in the middle school area, we're definitely the middle schoolers are a very entertaining a bunch with all of these different changes happening at different times and floating into the friend who gets the growth spurt before you, and now the relationship gets a little rocky, and now all the all the things that happen in middle school, and in the wildness of it. Th- yeah, that's really beautiful. I like that 75. Yeah, I've acted many times. I've acted. I've practiced an act before. I know that feeling as well. Well, how about this? As we think about the mask, I would love you to share your mask. I'll tell you what my mask is. Either you can tell I'll go first or you go first. But I would love to just you to share the front and the back of your mask as a teacher. And then, I think it will lead into these other part of our conversation.
Sure. Why don't you go first if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So because I've made lots of masks on the show, one of the things I've been trying to do more of is just kind of like as I think about my educator persona, as I think about the teacher in me, if I think about the mask, because I think about when I taught for 10 years and administrator for 3. I think on the front, like if I show you an image of a mask that I've drawn here, let me show you this one. This is like
Mm,
a character mask that I'm working on.
mm,
And this one says caring, passionate, excited. Like that's really how I wanted to be as a teacher. Like I came to this profession, I chose it. It chose me. I'm passionate about mathematics. I love math. I'm excited about helping kids learn. But a lot of the times behind what they weren't seeing, as much as I was, is sometimes they saw my frustration, but I don't think they saw that it was mostly out of a place of worry and sometimes disappointment. Like not disappointment in them, but just disappointment that as much as I was there ready to teach them every day, I felt so many students were missing it, like missing that somebody really cared, somebody was really trying to help them, somebody wanted them to see past where they were stuck, and I felt worried that I would play a part in their I use the word downfall. I'll play a part in their lack of mobility in the future. And I didn't come to education to harm, right? I came in to help, and so those are as a teacher, those are the things that I probably showed the most,
hmm
or I didn't show, and not things I did show.
That resonates with me a lot. That worry that unless you're really on your A game, that you could be part of the problem and not part of the solution. That resonates hard. I'll show you my mask. Let's see if it's flipped
Nice.
backwards. Let me flip
No, it's
my
good. It's
video.
good. It's good.
Um, so on the front, I have a picture that looks kind of sort of like me, uh, bald guy with a yarmulke and sunglasses to represent hopefully being coming across as cool. And then I wrote nerdy in parentheses in an endearing way
Mm.
to show that I am very passionate about my craft and I know a lot about it and I like to sling the vocabulary around and bring the kids in on that journey. I wrote patient. I pride myself on my patience in the classroom. And I wrote caring because I do try to remember all the time that I'm not just teaching music, I'm teaching humans, I'm
Mm.
teaching children. And that's so much more than just the music. And if a kid, depending on how they show up to class, if they're showing up carrying things that are preventing them from being able to be present in the space, is there anything that I can do in that moment to help? Some kids, they need me to pause class and like, hey, come over here and chat with me for a second. Some
Mm.
kids don't want the attention and what they need is a box of tissues and permission to step out and come back when they're ready. And some kids just need the structure of a regular class. I do start every single class with mindful breathing. I've collected uh, many animated graphics. There are these great animated graphics, these GIF files online of breathing. with different
Mm,
timings. A lot of people know the square breathing format:
mm,
4 in, hold; 4 out, hold. And there are many, many different formats. There's 3-7-8: in for 3, hold for 7, out for 8, which really forces you to bring attention to your breath. There's 7 in, out for 11. There's lots of different sort of patterns and formulas. And so we start every single class. This is a practice I started a couple of years ago, where as they come in, they find their seats, and we just start with maybe 60 seconds of breathing. And it really, for me, helps to make that transition between wherever I was mentally, physically, and where I'm about to be. And I tell the students, look, you're busy. You go from place to place, from class to class, from teacher to teacher. Do you have these materials? Do you have these different materials? Are you in your PE uniform? Um, do you have your lunch? All these things that grown-ups are asking you to do, and all these quick shifts through the day. We
mm.
almost never have a chance to just pause and be in our bodies for a moment and make that shift. And so we're going to do that as part of music and movement class. And it's going to feel a little awkward for a while until you get used to it. But it has been impactful for me, and I hope it's impactful for you. This is what I tell them. And on those days that my graphics aren't working or the audio, I have a very gentle sort of audio track that goes in the background. If something goes wrong, they're looking at me like, what's happened to my routine, man? Like, come on. Where's my breathing?
Where's my where's my time to reflect and relax? Yeah. Oh man. I really thank you for sharing that. That's so beautiful. I really first of all, thanks for sharing the mask. Wait, was that no,
That
was
was
you
still the
still on the
front.
front?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
man. You were in there. You were in there. Right on.
Sorry,
No, no,
I
you're good.
little tangent.
No, that was
Um,
beautiful. That was perfect. That perfect tangent for this show. Don't
okay,
worry.
excellent,
There's no list of questions here. It's just connecting. You know.
perfect.
Yeah.
On the back, well, so and sort of related, I mentioned attention. I do tell, I'll tell you, I'm very open about it, and I tell all of my students right at the first class, I have ADHD, inattentive type.
Mm,
And I'm very upfront about it. I wasn't diagnosed until I was about 38 years old. And it was such a game changer to get that diagnosis. It explained so many things from my childhood. Um, and it was such a relief in many ways. And so after I got that diagnosis, when I came back the following school year, I asked my administrator, do I have your permission to share this with the
mm,
students? And he said, well, HIPAA and regulations, and you don't have to by any means. This is your private medical information.
yeah.
But if you want to, it could be a way potentially for some students to find a way to connect with you. And
Mm,
so I've made it kind of not just a tradition in the classroom, but a sort of something that I do out and about in the world, almost like I wear the kippah to sort of broadcast. This is part of my identity that is important to me.
yeah.
Whenever there's a conversation or an opportunity to talk about neurodiversity or to talk about executive function or to talk about attention, I'm super open about the fact that I have ADHD and attentive type. And I've shared it many, many times with many, many people, and I have never once had a negative experience as a result of that sharing. It's
Mm,
only been building bonds. It's only been like an exhale of breath, like, oh, we can talk about this. Or it's only been, oh, I have that too, or my brother, or my son, or my
mm,
cousin, or my parents, or I think I have it, but I'm not sure, and I don't know how to go about getting tested. And it's
mm,
led to all these fabulous conversations. But I mention that because I am prone to tangents. And I tell the kids, along with, we were talking about the mindful breathing, that for someone with ADHD, whether hyperactive or inattentive or combined type, to have a moment to pause is extra important,
mm,
and extra helpful to just have that pause in the day. And if you can get more than one, so much the better. But for me, I tell them the mindful breathing helps me personally a lot. It helps me reset my brain, sort of reboot the machine and be fresh and ready. And so I hope it helps them. I know it helps me, and I hope it helps them too. I know it helps some of them for sure.
I imagine, as a teacher, I think how powerful that is to like not only let the students experience it, but you experience it because who knows what kid may have said that thing last period, right? And if that thing is still stirring, the next class comes in and they start getting uh, feedback. They start getting a little like residual from like, wait, what's going on here? Why you mad at us? I'm like, I ain't mad. And you're like, oh, they're like, what happened last period? They're like, what's happened last period? Or they'll be asking each other in the hallway, what happened? What happened in class? What happened in class? Right? So they know they about to walk. They about to walk into a tornado. You're like, oh I just got here. I didn't do nothing. So that part of like us saying, okay, wait a minute, it wasn't y'all. It wasn't like let me reset myself, right?
Hmm.
And we often don't get time. I mean, there's a passing period, but
Hmm.
here we get 5 minutes, right? In most schools, you're like, by the time that half the kids have left out, the other ones are already in. So you basically don't really get a passing period. If you're, I mean, when you get good at it, you're like, hey, y'all wait out here. I'll be right back. I gotta go refresh my face, right? And I'll go get some cold water, right? But yeah, thank you for mentioning that, and thank you for sharing that. I imagine that if I go do some homework and some that there's I'm curious that when you talk about that. I'm gonna go look it up when you say the ADHD, the attentive type. I'm gonna ask you more about that later. Um, but I'll let you share the back of your mask, and then I want to hear about this method of teaching that you use because I think it's really helpful for educators to think about what method are you using. What is your pedagogical style of teaching, right? Because I really want to hear about how you do that with music. Because I've had a guitar for 20 years. It's been in the same box. It's probably been open maybe 10 times, and there's something in the way, right? Something in the way. But I want to hear more about that too.
Absolutely, happy to talk about it. Well, so after on going on my sort of ADHD spiel, some of these will be maybe a little bit less surprising. On the back of my mask, I wrote late slash behind. There's a wonderful book about raising and teaching kids with executive function difficulties called Late, Lost, and Unprepared. And when
Mm.
we read this book one year as mandatory professional development reading, and I was just like, ooh, it hit so hard. Um, so later behind, I wrote off balance.
Mm.
It's been really hard to feel centered, really since COVID, and it's been a long time since COVID. But that that plus having young children really can has thrown me for a loop a lot of times. And then in true, somewhat over the top
Mm.
fashion, I wrote insecure, and then in smaller letters, I wrote never, whatever, enough.
Ooh.
And then under whatever, in really small print, I wrote motivated, creative, organized, present, playful, original, effective, communicative, prepared, open, informed, involved, helpful, in control. All of these things are areas where
Oh man.
I always wish I were more, or there are definitely so many times when I feel like I am not whatever enough.
Mm.
And many therapy hours have been devoted to that. And just like some of your other guests in the past, I strongly recommend therapy for everyone, full stop, period, but especially for
Mm.
teachers. Golly, it is so helpful.
Mm.
Um, and many therapy hours have been devoted to this question of enough-ness in whatever arena that is.
I'm gonna ask you to send me a picture of that so I can because what you just did is I can probably find some mass at some point where I've like had the diverting like is not three is not enough. Like I don't have enough
Yeah.
in three. I can't get it into three. Right. I'm gonna add a little that one, and here's a little build off of that. Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And I felt it. I felt it. I felt it not only as I read the words, but I felt it in just the realness of it of identity and connection, And I think that on the outside, because we're measured by these bios and these external markers, right? Sometimes it can be missed. And I really appreciate your administrator saying, you know, if you are willing to share, you may be able to help connect with some students who also think that there's something wrong with them, and there's nothing wrong with you. It's just the way you learn, the way you develop is different, and we're all unique, but we oftentimes don't appreciate our uniqueness because we've been taught that, oh, you're not like them, you're not as good as me, right? And all the ways that people put people down is all based on comparing you to some ideal or some elite, right? Like, and I think if we have more opportunities to do this work, right, to have more mindful moments in class, did the mind like, when did that start for you? Because I really appreciate it. I want to hear about this teaching method, but also like as a teacher, as an educator, when did the mindful part start? When did it start for you? Was it like you did some work and then you came in and said, I'm gonna try it with them, or what was it that helped you to like maybe that first year you did it? Because I imagine kids were like, "Do what? What do you mean? Be quiet and sit down." Like we gotta get our instruments ready. You know what I'm saying? What are you talking about? What are you doing? Like what was it that first year or first week or you tried it? What was that like? Or what caused it?
Let's think. It's been a while. Um, I know. So I'm involved in the leadership of a men's group called Merge, MERJ, which was co-founded by one of your previous guests, Justin Haas, who's a wonderful man. Yes, exactly. Um,
Okay.
and I remember in some of our early meetings, he would start us off with some breathing, and I thought this is awkward and also really intriguing. And in some other PD sessions, I'd seen people model in. I've been involved for a while in anti-racist work, and that's something that I'd be happy to talk more about. Um, the and in a lot of those spaces, I've seen presenters or facilitators model using the breath at the beginning, using the breath in the middle, especially if things are getting more heated, using the breath at the end to segue out in a way that feels to help bring closure. Um, and that sometimes that was, I don't even remember whether that was before my ADHD diagnosis or not, but it caught my attention as like, okay, I don't know about this, about meditation for me. That would be
Mm,
incredibly difficult. I believe in the power of it, and I really admire people who do it as part of their practice.
yeah.
But for me, these moments of breathing, especially to start a class with it,
Mm,
has proven a sort of little mini meditation, a little mini moment to just bring attention to the body and the breath and to posture, and to whatever you're coming in with, kids and me, whatever you're coming in with, whatever happened to recess, whatever, however many pimples you've got, whatever's going on, we're about to be in a space, a creative space where we're taking artistic risks together. How can we pivot into that space and be as present as possible, knowing that what is possible is very different for every kid and for me from day to day and from class to class. And that was big
mm,
learning for me. It's actually relatively recent learning to my. I feel a little embarrassed that it took me so long, but I don't, and I wish I could give credit to where credit is due to the teacher who taught me, but who said, like we always talk about, do your best, do your best, do your best. But to say do your best has the potential to actually be toxic to kids.
mm,
And especially if we're saying that to ourselves, if we're holding and we hold ourselves to such high standards,
yeah.
there are days that our best is going to be here, where we're really going to be firing on all the cylinders,
Mm,
where there's nothing, there's no interference, there's nothing getting in the way, there's no static, there's no mess from home, there's no mess from friends, there's no mess from politics. Although those days are few and far between. Um, but there more often there are going to be days where there's other stuff. There's interference, there's noise in the signal, and to say do your best and only have this best, this super high best as the
mm,
benchmark, um, is really problematic. And I wish, as a recovering perfectionist, I wish someone had told
mm,
me this decades ago. And I try to pass on to my students: strive for excellence, never perfection. We don't have perfection. That's not a thing. for humans. On
Mm.
the very, very rare occasion that you get it really close to perfect, that's awesome, but never striving for perfection, always striving for polish, striving for excellence,
Mm.
with the knowledge that what is possible is going to be different from day to day. And that's okay. And I try to shoot. I'm much better at preaching to them than I am preaching to myself.
Ooh,
That's a whole different thing, though.
oh, I'm that man. I'm that man. I'm that man. When you said the part right there, how doing your best can be toxic, and then you talked about we're taking artistic risks together. I think I really resonated, and I think I wish we could make sure that we have a poster for every teacher. Like we're all taking risks here, right? Like teachers have to understand that they're just taking more seasoned risks, right? But we're all taking risks, and I think oftentimes educators operate like they have been an expert at this subject forever. And so when a student makes a mistake, they are either insensitive or they're ambivalent or either or both. And they're like, well, you didn't study hard enough. Well, you didn't work hard enough. Well, you must not have prepared well enough, right? And all the ways that I know as a math teacher, like when I get up, I don't do a wrong math problem. How bad would that look to be a math teacher making errors? But I'm also like, when I got clear that I'm human too, that, oh, you know what, I made a mistake. And students will laugh. They'd be like, ah, oh, you made a mistake. And I'm like, why are you laughing at me? Like, I don't laugh at you when you make a mistake. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but the idea of that, like, we're not supposed to make mistakes. We're supposed to be perfect all the time. And I think I've started to learn, okay, sometimes I make a mistake on purpose. I mean, I definitely make enough on accident. I don't need to make enough purpose. But every once in a while, let me do this thing wrong so that you can see the mistakes that could be made. And that's sometimes a way of teaching too. But I think I've made enough my own mistakes. I don't need to say I'm always making mistakes on purpose, but that opportunity to say we're all taking risks, right? Because you go home and tell your parent, my teacher doesn't even know how to do math, right? What is that? What am I going to look like, right? Like I know my math. I made a mistake. I multiplied something wrong, right? But I think how do we make sure that we name that for students, especially those who, and some students are so high achieving, they be like, oh, whatever, get out of my way. And others are like, they need it. And every student is different, right? In that way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me more about the music teaching. You're a music teacher. Tell me about the pedagogy of music, the style of teaching that you use. Now, I said it earlier. I had it written on my screen and I lost it. So you got to say it because it's a word that I'm not going to be able to repeat.
It's all right. It's in German. So if I was going to use the really like super precise German pronunciation, I would say Orff Schulwerk. But here in the United States, we call it Orff Schulwerk because that's
Sure.
what it looks like, Schulwerk. And that word has two parts. Orff Schulwerk. Orff is named for a composer, Karl Orff, who is most famous for writing a giant symphonic piece called Carmina Burana that's performed all the time. Very dramatic piece. You've probably heard it in tons of commercials. And he, along with his collaborator, whose name was it's a wonderful name. Her name was Gunhild Katemann. And it should be called Katemann Schulwerk as much as Orff Schulwerk. But there's the systemic patriarchy at work that he gets the credit. But I'm going to lift up Katemann too. That Karl Orff, who was a composer and a pianist and a musician, had this idea of a different way of teaching music, a different approach to teaching music. Not a method, because a method says first you do A and then you do B and then you do C, and it's very prescribed. But an approach, a different way of framing music that he then recruited Katemann, who was originally a dancer and became also a wonderful instrumentalist and composer in her own right, to try and help him work this out. And one of his big ideas was music never alone, but always in unity with other arts. So when Orff Schulwerk teachers are trained, we talk about the Orff media. We talk about singing, instruments, speech, drama, movement, and the most important of all is creativity, which manifests through composing and improvising. So another way of thinking about an Orff Schulwerk classroom is as almost, some people have called it a musicianship laboratory.
Mm.
The goal being the kids are getting their hands dirty, quote unquote, with making music as much as possible, as opposed to talking about it or listening to it and trying to break it down on an abstract level. It's very hands on. So, for example, um, in a classic Orff Schulwerk lesson, you're going to have, or in a sort of lesson unit over several lessons, you'll have a preliminary play period where
Mm.
uh, the teacher and the students literally play together. And Karl Orff talked a lot about how play is the work of children. And Montessori, I think that was a Maria Montessori line, play is the work of childhood. Um,
Mm.
and that's so important, and that's so often forgotten in the school setting. So first you play in guided experiences, and then you imitate, where often by rote. By rote teaching has gotten a bad rap in a lot of places, but for learning, especially music and really any of the arts, there's nothing like it for rote teaching, for echoing, for imitation, whether that's imitation of a movement or imitation of a facial expression, imitation of a musical pattern, imitation of a recorder fingering. That's new.
Mm.
So preliminary play onto imitation, onto exploration, which can be more or less structured. Sometimes it's now, uh, okay, kids, given these little building blocks, these little musical ideas, whether they're rhythms or recorder fingerings or ukulele chords or types of movement class, what can you do with them? How can you put them together in a form that feels satisfying? How can we create something together? And then
Mm.
in the end, you've got improvisation, you've got invention of original material, which, if you look at the um, the standards, the sort of national music teaching standards, they
Yeah.
always include improvisation and composition. But if you talk to a non-Orff trained music educator, that's often the first one to go,
Mm.
because it's scary. It's scary to teach improvisation and composition, especially if you yourself as an adult don't have experience doing it. Like, how do you teach a kid to make something new?
Mm.
And the secret is, don't just throw them into the pool with all the tools and say, now go create a masterpiece.
Mm.
No, it's very structured. It's very scaffolded. Um, with those other steps first. You got to play with the building blocks. If you can picture Legos, first you dump a whole pile of Legos on the floor. You say, "Wow, these look fun. What can we do with them?" You have some
Mm.
time just like fiddling with them, putting them together, and then like, "Wow, I can combine them this way. Can you combine them this way? Ooh, I can combine them this way. Can you combine them this way?" Like, wow, I bet you could build a building.
Mm.
Go ahead and build your own building, and maybe it's a big building, maybe it's a small building, maybe it's a building with multiple floors, maybe it's a one floor rancher, maybe it's a doghouse, maybe it's a skyscraper. Make a building. And then once they've made something that has some structure and some pattern to it, okay, now you understand these Legos as a tool. All of this is metaphor, but it does work really nicely if you have actual
Yeah.
Legos.
Yeah.
Um, Now that you've got a solid understanding of what these tools can do,
Yeah.
now go make something new. No more buildings. Buildings are cool and great. And looking at the instructions in the books is cool and great. But now it's time for you to take some of the patterns that we've talked about, because music is made of patterns, and life is made of patterns, and nature is made of repeating patterns. So
Yeah.
let's go back to those patterns, to those cellular structures, to those ideas of chorus and verse, to these ideas that keep coming back over and over and over again in music and in movement and in life, of variety and repetition and variety and repetition, and make something new.
Mm.
Um, and then we'll share. Um, it's, on the one hand, it's so simple, and on the other hand, it's very, very complex and has to be approached carefully and in baby steps. Because all it takes in this process, this scaffolding, to go from here is a fun new thing, let's play with it, to now make me something. If
Yeah.
you skip any of those intermediate steps, or if the um, the transition in difficulty from one part of a lesson to another is too big and too sudden, then all of a sudden what looked like a really fun and intriguing toy becomes like, nah, I'm out. Um,
Mm.
and so figuring out how to calculate the smallest steps possible, the smallest increases in difficulty possible, the smallest
Yeah.
increases in complexity possible. The term I use is level up, sort of from video
Mm.
gaming, because the kids can relate to that idea of level up. So
Level up.
we start with something very very simple, very simple. Um, like if we're doing a complicated new folk dance, I'm not just going to jump in with the whole folk dance.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it back to one movement, which is usually walk, which is level one is always something that pretty much everyone can do
Yeah.
or can modify so they can be successful for people with difference in mobility, that sort of thing. Um,
Mm.
so you start with something, just like on a video game, you start with something that's so simple that pretty much anyone playing that game can do it right away and they feel successful. And then you
Yeah.
go level up, and the kids have to, I say it just that way. I say level up, and the kids have to go level up, with the fist in the air. It's very important. Um, to reinforce that, yes, let's celebrate your learning, and now we're going to do something a little more complicated. Um,
Mm.
uh, and so we level up, and then maybe that level up in the video game is you're not just running. You have to push a button to jump, but still you run and you jump, and then yay, congratulations! And the dopamine part of your brain is going, man, I am
Mm.
awesome at this.
I am
Um,
awesome at this.
and then
Yes.
And that's the feeling that you want, because then, and you keep leveling up, baby steps on the levels up,
Mm.
baby steps. And if in a music classroom, maybe that looks like, for example, there's a technique that Orff Schulwerk teachers use called the melodic skeleton, where if we're trying to teach, for example, on the recorder or on the xylophones or on the other barred instruments, a difficult and complicated melody that goes all over the place, we'll strip that melody down to maybe, so instead of having 30 notes in the melody, we'll strip it down to just six, or eight, to the most important notes in the melody, the first note, the last note, and the sort of most rhythmically important notes in the middle,
Mm.
and say, play this. I'll play it. Let me go ahead and take a minute first before we play it, and warm up your instrument. Remember how the fingers go. That's the sort of preparatory play part. Make some funny
Mm.
noises. Okay, great. Now imitate. I have a little rap that is super corny that I made up to help remember the recorder fingerings. B is OK, and thumb and two for A. G is royal drinking tea. Add two more for E, and it keeps on going. And it's super corny and cringy, but it helps for the mnemonic. So we refresh the fingerings, and then okay, once they're back in that place of, I think I remember where my fingers go, and I think I remember
Mm.
what A looks like. Good. Here's the melody. The melody goes A B G A.
Mm.
Play that, and they're like, okay, I can handle that. A B G A. Good. That's the sort of level zero. Um, and then level up, and then you just add one extra little note, just one. And so they play exactly what they've just played with just one little tiny change for their brain to focus on, and they master that.
Mm.
And you go, yes, that was awesome. Level up. And you keep leveling up, and over if it's crafted carefully and if there aren't any sudden jumps in difficulty from level to level over the course of 7 or 10 or 15 or sometimes 20 levels, they've gone from just sort of noodling with their fingers to being able to play this very complex thing. And if you ask them at the end, how did we get here, they go, I don't know. I've just always been able to do this. And then you look back at level one and you say, this is level one. Remember A B G A. It's a little bit like if you're crushing it on a video game with both thumbs going and the fingers and everything's happening. And you say, where did you start this game? You run and you jump. And it works the other way too, where if the levels of the leveling up, if the baby steps are really, really well structured, and are very, very what we call the shallow on ramp, just very tiny changes from level to level. The kids are thinking, I'm awesome at this. I'm awesome at this. Oh, yeah, piece of cake, no problem. In the first three, four levels. Then by the time
Yeah.
you get to level 20, they're sweating, right? And they keep messing it up. But by that point, they're invested and they're going to keep doing it over and over and over until they get it right because they want to get it right because they're in it to win it. Because, hey, this game, I was really good
Mm,
at this game, man. Um,
mm.
I'm not going to let the game beat me now. There are a lot of parallels between good game design and good teaching.
Can you say it one more time? Play, imitate, and then
Sure.
improvise.
So, preliminary play, where you
Preliminary
just,
play. Yep.
mhm. And then imitate,
Imitate,
and then explore.
explore. That's one I missed. Okay.
And that's the one where, for example, if you're teaching a piece, if you want them
Okay.
to come away from a unit knowing whatever core material you want them to know, that's the core material. So once they've imitated, whether that's grammar, whether that's a technique in visual arts, whether
Yeah.
that's a musical technique, whether that's a new way to jump rope,
Yeah.
first they have to see it modeled and they have to do it along with. It's another way. It's kind of parallel to the we do you to the I do we do you do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parallel to that. So the preliminary play is a little bit unique to the Orff Schulwerk, but I think it's really important. And then the imitation is we do.
We do.
The exploration is you do, but I'm going to help you get there.
Mm.
And then the last phase is the creation, the improvisation, the now that you have the tools, go build something that's your own.
Make it yours. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. We do. You do. Now you. Now you can go and make it as creative as
Now,
you want.
now impress me. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go. Oh man, that was beautiful. I really appreciate the weaving of not only teaching, pedagogy, music, game design. You weaved all of that in there really well. And I was having flashbacks of playing Super Mario Brothers the first time, right?
Yeah.
Like so, I think so, and I think it's real. Like you learn. Oh, I got ate by that. How did that mushroom just eat me? What happened? I thought it was a friend, right? And then you
Right.
realize, oh, I gotta jump over that. And so you begin to like make the mistakes without fear. And I think I wish
Right.
that more of that was opportunity for schools and teachers. So I think it's really going to help teachers. As we wrap up, because I think we could talk a lot more, and I know that we only have a short amount of time. But as you're entering year 20, um, and knowing the profession as you know it, knowing the challenges, the difficulties, I know that what words of encouragement do you have for other? I mean, it could be a message for all educators, but to those male educators who are so few of them out there, what
Mm,
message would you have for them as you kick off your 20th year? They may be starting their first or second, maybe like wanting to quit or whatever they're feeling about their
mhm.
teaching practice and their praxis of being able to be a good teacher. Maybe just let's close here with a word of encouragement from you as a person who's been through it, seen it, and I wish we had more time to talk about more of the stories because I'm really curious too.
Sure. Um, I think it's kind of a two-part. What's coming up for me is a two-part message, and part of the message is something that I learned from my therapist, which is we can do all things, but we can't do everything. It can be really hard to remember that sometimes, especially if with the sort of stereotypical pressures of being the male teacher, especially if you're the only male teacher, if you're one of a very tiny number. There are different expectations for that. That is coded differently from the students and from the administration and from other teachers. And just because you can do all things, you can't do everything. And if you try to do everything, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad for mental health. The outcomes are going to be
Mm,
suboptimal. Balance goes out the window. And that sort of leads to the second part of the message, which while remembering, I'll switch to I. While I remember I can do all things, but I can't do everything, is also remembering that I am entitled to help and support when I need it. that I don't need to just tough it up, buttercup, if there's a struggle, that there's a reason, that there's always, oh gosh, I sure hope that for every teacher, especially every male teacher out there, that there's at least one person in the building. I dearly hope it's an administrator, if you're lucky enough to have a really caring administrator, or if not, maybe it's a school counselor or someone else on your teaching team. And it's great, therapy and spouses and significant others and life partners, and all of those are great. But to be able to have someone in the field who you can go to, ideally in the school, to share, I am struggling right now. And to flip the mask, even for that moment, to have someone to flip the mask to, and it doesn't have to be a total flip, just a little, sometimes just a little peek is enough. But people really, I think, appreciate when others come to them and say, hey, I need help and I was thinking of you. Do you think that this is something that you might be able to help me with? For me, the way that manifests right now at this moment going into year 20 is I'm actually planning on taking a 3-month leave of absence, which is not something that's in my school culture. It's very unusual, and I had to jump through some hoops, and I really had to ask for it. But it'll be in the middle of the year, so I'll get to start the year off, establish my routines, and I'll get to finish the year off and do some of my big assemblies and my biggest shows and my command performances and that kind of thing. And in the middle of the year, I'll have time, I hope, to reboot into sort of a macrocosm of that mindful breathing. Just because it's since COVID, it's felt like you stomp your foot down on the gas and just hasn't let up.
Yeah.
And to take that moment as self-care, maybe to compose a little bit for the first time in a long time, maybe to help my family more, maybe to pay attention to my relationship, maybe to do all of the above, and not just be in the deep weeds of lesson planning and report card writing and all the stuff that comes with teaching. I'm looking forward to that a lot. And I hope that model of, yes, it's okay to ask, even if the thing you're asking for is unusual, like 3 months of leave of absence. That we, including male teachers, we have the right, and it can be a total game changer. It for me, being given the green light for that was what I needed to stop a long slide of demotivation and potential burnout. And the fact that they saw that, and the fact that they saw that and were able to hear and listen, and were willing to hear and listen, and the fact that I was vulnerable and shared, this is very hard right now. And I've been eating it for a long time, and I don't want to eat it anymore. It took both of those. It took me putting myself out there, and it took them. Thank goodness for my administration. They're delightful. I'm very lucky. And I acknowledge my luck and my privilege, having come from a position at a previous school where I did not have supportive administration, and where that would have been an ask of like, what are you kidding me? Get out of my office. So I know not everybody has that, but to ask for rest sounds so silly, but I think it's really important.
So, man, I'm excited. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for the 2 boys you mentioned, and the wife, and the time. I'm excited for that. Thank you for sharing it, and thank you for being here with us. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. And I think, I tell guests often, I said, I think that we just got started. We finally start getting into it, then the time is up, right? So I hope this won't be not goodbye. It'll be like, I'll see you soon. And we need to support. We need more male educators in education, and we need to support them in ways that sometimes their administrators won't know how to help them, because they won't even know how to communicate it to them, right? So thank you for the work you're doing. Thanks for asking for what you need, and I'm excited about that for you as well. And folks, listen, Russell and I, we made our masks here publicly, but you don't have to share yours publicly. You can make yours anonymously at millionmask.org. We invite you to go make a mask, and please share this episode with someone in education. who you feel could benefit from this conversation. Russell, it's been a pleasure to talk to you in this conversation. Thank you so much.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you, Ashanti.
And folks, we'll see you soon. Take care. Be well. Bye now.